I'm excited to have with us today a special guest, a woman who is very special and dear to my heart. Her name is Mrs. Ione Green. She is a two-time breast cancer warrior and overcomer. So it's my honor to welcome Ione Green. Welcome, Ione.
Oh, thank you, Tammy, for having me here. It's good to see you.
I want to go back to your first diagnosis. How did you find out that you had breast cancer? How old were you? What was the diagnosis? What was your treatment?
Well, actually, I was 29. And at the time, I had a 3-year-old and not quite a 1-year-old. I was always one to do self-exams. So, to know my body, to know how it feels, and to notice anything that might feel different. And so I did notice a lump on my left breast. I went and had that, checked out. And at first the doctor felt it, and he actually didn't think there was any problem. But he decided to do a biopsy. And from the biopsy, they did find out that it was cancerous. Yes, it was a shock. I was young. I didn't really know much about breast cancer back then. It seems like the stories I heard was from older people that died. Your mother didn't tell you why she died, but it might have been breast cancer, but they just didn't talk about it. So there wasn't a lot I knew. There wasn't a lot of information available. Mm-hmm. So they said it was small and that it would be easily treatable, that I could have a lumpectomy.
There are many types of breast surgeries for breast cancer. One is a lumpectomy. A lumpectomy is when a surgeon goes in to remove the tumor from the breast, leaving the remainder of the breast intact.
They did check a couple of the nodules under the arms to see if it had spread anywhere else. So I did go through 6 weeks of radiation. It all seemed pretty surreal to me. It didn't mentally get me down. I was young, I had a young family, I was working, I was distracted, really. The doctor said I was gonna be okay. Over the years, what happened and made me become more aware of what I had gone through is that my skin started darkening and tightening a little bit. And then, every time I'd feel something, a sore, something was wrong that I didn't feel right, they wanted to biopsy, especially if it was a certain point on my body somewhere. So I went through a lot of biopsies. So I decided that if I ever have cancer again, that I would have a bilateral mastectomy. And this was probably by the time I got to my early 40s. I was really in that mindset because it started showing more residual from the radiation, and it became more apparent that, my God, I had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. I've been through radiation, and then I started hearing more about breast cancer itself, socially, and other people that had it. So it started becoming more real to me. This is my sister, Carla. She's been there with me from day one, when I had the first diagnosis. Through the years, as I said, the radiation started to bring it closer to me that this was real. I had decided that if I had a return of the cancer, that I would have a bilateral mastectomy. So I go to my mammograms and they find that there's a suspicion there. So they do a biopsy. It was a needle biopsy because it was very, very small. And they found out that the breast cancer was in my other breast. So now I had it in my right breast. Through the years, the radiation had still been taking a significant toll on my left side, tightening it up, hardening it up, scar tissue. Going through all that in the biopsies, my sister, she was there. We did appointments, the radiations, and I had chemotherapy after the mastectomy. There's nothing like having somebody that can call you, you can say anything you want to, and they are there for you. And sometimes it's not a blood person, but this time it is, because family isn't always family. So, I'm very, very fortunate, very fortunate.
It was difficult for me at first, mainly because you don't want to believe that your sister even has cancer. Because whatever she's going through, I'm going to go through it because we're very, very close. My faith is very strong. And without God and praying for healing, it would have been more difficult to get through it. But like I said, Ione is tough and she doesn't give up. So from her strength, it gave me strength. And so she always knew that if she needed to talk, I was always there for her. And no matter what it was, I was always going to be there for her. She was never alone.
I received the mastectomy and implants after the mastectomy, so I can, have my shape back and, feel comfortable about that. As Tammy was saying about chemotherapy, you have different side effects from it. People at different levels, different stages. Everybody's body's so different, so the strength of that reaction will be different and how it affects them. So, a lot of the effects I had is like, well, it's chemotherapy, it's chemotherapy. Well, 5 years out, 10 years out, I'm still having these effects plus more symptoms. I'm having headaches, I'm coughing all the time, I'm always itching, my gut's messed up. And I mean, there's a list of maybe 30 things and I keep going to the doctor and nobody can figure out. MRIs, CAT scans. I mean, I did this for years. They started giving me medication till I was over medicated. I mean, I just went through so much for them to try and find out what was going on. I had maybe 8 different specialists. Here I am about 13, 14 years out from my implants. They started looking different. The radiated side, was just starting to lift and tighten. The scar tissue was forming around it. So it's like, it's time for them to go. I went to the plastic surgeon and she gave me my options for more implants and flaps and all the different options to do to reconstruct. Then COVID hit and I'm like still thinking about, well, what am I gonna do? Because they need to come out. The foreign body's not meant to stay in your body forever. I was looking through some magazines one day and I come across this really small article and it says breast implant illness, a Facebook page. And I go to this page and it has over 150,000 women on this page talking about symptoms that they have had from implants. There's a name for it. The symptoms that I've been having, people were saying they had the same symptoms. I started researching it, and finding articles and different information on it. And it was in my mind then, I'm not getting implants put back in, Obviously I'm susceptible to whatever this is. The FDA has not made the medical industry look at it like it's a real thing because they haven't really had a way to diagnose it. Now, the only way they've been able to diagnose it is because they have all these survivors who's had implants. Even people who's had cosmetic implants can get this as well.
Okay.
So the more people come together and talk about it, then the more we'll know about it and be able to move forward and have something done in the medical industry. That's what I'm looking for. I had the implants removed in March, so it hasn't quite been a year. I feel wonderful today. I mean, really, before March, I was sitting up there, sick as a dog. And I mean, first of all, just the relief that they were gone. So mentally, spiritually, I felt better. But physically, my energy is back. I've gone to these follow-up appointments for all the specialists and I said, I'm checking you off my list because I don't need you anymore. Really, I didn't to begin with because they weren't giving me any diagnosis or anything.
Yeah.
So, it just feels really good to not have to be going to the doctor 2 and 3 times a week. It was just hard to even keep up with all this stuff. And it was all about doctors. The
Wow.
symptoms, I'll tell you, probably 75% of the symptoms I were having are gone. I'm not saying this is a miracle situation, but I definitely feel like a different person. I don't want to scare women into thinking that I'm saying everybody who has implants is going to get breast implant illness, because that's just not true.
Right.
You know, it's our bodies and what our bodies are susceptible as an individual as far as these foreign substances in our body and how our body reacts to it. Now, the FDA is going to, two things that they are doing, because they are aware, the BII, breast implant illness. There's a black box warning that's being put on the implants now, letting them know about symptoms and possible breast implant illness. And then there's a checklist for the doctors that they're supposed to introduce to the patients to let them have a educated decision whether or not that they want to have implants or not, because this is a possibility breast implant illness. The pages are about 3 or 4 pages of questions, and they have to initial it and sign it that they were, you know, made aware of these things. So those are a couple of things, you know, that are out there to show you that somebody's listening. I want you lady warriors to look at 3 things really that I have used myself. The first thing is, you know, when you get a diagnosis of cancer, is to survive. You want to live, you want to be here. So there's medical things that you're going to need to do, spiritual things that you're going to want to need to do. But that's the basis. And also the quality of your life. As you move through making decisions, what's the quality of your life that you want? You know, what's the importance of when you have to make a decision about mastectomy or not, implants or not, this medication or not? You know, that's important as well. The other thing is that you're living with the peace of mind. So when it's all said and done, this is the decision I've made, I've thought about it, and I feel good about it, you know, and you live your life. You live through it the best way you can. We only go through here once, you know, so we want to make decisions ourselves about how we live through it, and not just have the doctors dictate how it's done. This is my husband, Michael, of 46 years. So he has been with me from day one on my journey and has been my #1 supporter. I can't say enough about him as a husband, as a father, and the way he supported me through the cancer journey, which is, once you have it, it's a lifetime journey. He's been there just with me that, man, I couldn't have asked for a better husband. Thank you, honey.
Thank you. This woman is very special to me, and I love her very, very much. And I think she knows that, you know, and I'll just put that out to the world. And this cancer journey is a tough journey. I can't see anyone really taking it, you know, treading it alone. You know, the support system is most important. I have more of a medical background, and so that enabled me to really be there and fill the gaps in that maybe she wasn't, you know, doing. I go to the appointments with her, and the language that's used, you know, can be very, very much over one's head. And many times, questions that you think that you want to ask, by the time you get the opportunity, they're out of your mind. You know, and you can walk out of an appointment, you know, not really asking what you want and not really getting the information that you really need and not really having the understanding that you need. So I think it's most important to accompany your loved one and be another set of ears, you know, help these symptoms make sense, you know, particularly when you're going through treatments, when you're using a variety of medications. It's really easy to get overwhelmed and not realize that the medication is either benefiting you or it's complicating, your life, and that information needs to be reported. So I tried to fill the gaps and work with my wife and be there for her as a resource, a sounding board, and I think that's one of the most important things.